FC. FC. RRL NTS Net nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC. RRL NTS Net nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC. RRL NTS Net nightly at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
We uplink now, Skynet will be
And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? And does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? I'll take that as a no. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom Tango Oscar Mike, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purposes are to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime, daytime sky astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the post sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? Please come now. Encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the post sign, break. This is directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from World Net Control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of their transmissions. This net operates on this frequency, in case you're wondering, is 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9, or check-ins via Echo Link are also possible using a W5 FC-R station ID or Echo Link node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio, video links are available online. Just go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long or thereabouts and is structured in several parts. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any... General announcements. That's number 1. 2, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Number 3, National Space Society events. Number 4, discussion topic of the evening. Number 5, space exploration, space history. Number 6, what's up? Number 7, topic, constellation of the week. Topic of the week or constellation of the week. Number 8, space launches. Number 9, recent astronomical discoveries. Number 10, lost and found of recent astronomical discoveries. No, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Number 11, astronomical Q&A, and number 12, 73 round. We may or may not get to all of those, but we'll find out. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are welcomed and invited to check in. Let's start with low power short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from. Please let me know if you are low power or short time. Low power short time, please come now. Please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from. Please let me know if you are low power or short time. Low power short time.
Number 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William N. Allen, short time. Number 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William N. Allen, short time.
Have N5 WOI, William and Allen, short time. Any additional low power short time, please come now. Have N5 WOI, William and Allen, short time. Any additional low power short time, please come now. Right, okie dokie, we're going to go to general check-ins. Now when I do this, I need you to come in an orderly fashion. That means one after another, no speed reading, no speed speaking. I need you to come more slowly so I can write these things down. coffee's wearing off. Any case, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. General check-ins, please come now.
K2OIZ, low power, Roy City, Texas, George.
Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
This is Kilo India 5, Echo Lima Papa, Bravo, and Irving.
Bill in Irving.
This Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa, Mike, and Richardson.
Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Mike and Richardson.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
2OIZ, George, Roy City, Texas.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
This is November 5, Kilo Romeo Golf, Kevin in Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
November 5, India Mike Sierra, JJ in Carrollton. Short time. Well, I'll be monitoring most of the time, but be in and out. November 5,
Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Carrollton. Short time. Well, I'll be monitoring most of the time, but be in and out.
Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall. Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall. All right, that was a pretty healthy check-in. There were at least three three doubles with W's. And I think that's probably true. So let me go ahead and I'll need a couple of fills in this, and if you do not hear your call, I'll get you on this next round. I've got N5WOI, William in Allen. Oh, he was short time. Next station, I got Greg in Roy City. I've got Oscar India Zulu. You came in twice, but I missed the beginning of your call. Could you please give me your full call? Twice, please. Greg in Roy City. Oh, he was short time.
This is George in Roy City. K2 Oscar India Zulu. High power.
The beginning of your call. Could you please give me your full call? Twice, please. Greg in Roy City. All right, Greg. You're kind of spotty into the repeater, and the audio is a little overmodulated. I've got Kilo Tango 2 Oscar India Zulu. Is that even close? Please try again.
That's affirmative. That's affirmative.
You're kind of spotty into the repeater, and the audio is a little overmodulated. Okay, very good, Greg, and welcome to the net. I think this is your first check-in. You've got kind of a intermittent signal coming in and going out, coming into the repeater, so that's why I'm having a little trouble with your call. But I do have you. Might want to check an antenna connection or something along those lines, because it's kind of got that weird loosey-goosey kind of connection sound to it. Just saying, because you can't hear it, but we can. But thanks for checking in very much, and any comments will be appreciated as we go through the net. Next up, N5BB, Mr. Bill in Irving, thanks for doing TechNet this evening. KI5ELP, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Bob over in Irving, thank you. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in DeSoto, KG5P, Mike over in Richardson, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, KG5W, Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton, K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan, N5KRG, Kevin over in Farmers Branch, K5JHA, Chaz in Mesquite, N5IMS, that's JJ in Arlington. He says he's short time, Carrollton, I'm sorry. Carrollton starts with a C. He says he's short time, but I know he's out there. KG5APL, Patrick in Dallas, AG5PM, Rich in Rockwall. I'll get it right. Okay, I'll take additional over check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. 5 p.m.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa in Dallas.
I'll get it right. Okay, I'll take additional over check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. 5 p.m.
Kilo India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Golf, Lima, Delta, Randy, Rowlett. Kilo 5, Golf, Lima, Delta, Randy, Rowlett.
Right, I've got two more on that one. I've got Kilo India 5, Golf, Romeo Hotel. Melissa, welcome back over in Dallas. There was another key up with no. So if you came after Melissa, I didn't hear you. The next station after that, I got K5GLD. That's Randy and Rowlett. One more RF check-ins if you'd like to join us this evening. And after that, I'll go to Echolink. So please come with your call sign name. We're transmitting from RF. Please come now. I got K5GLD. That's Randy and Rowlett. One more RF check-ins if you'd like to join us this evening. And after that, I'll go to Echolink. So please come with your call sign name. We're transmitting from RF. Please come now. All right, let's go to Echolink. If you want to join us over on Echolink, you can do it two ways. You can go ahead and do it by audio, and I will watch the screen here. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. If you do not have good audio, which is possible, go ahead and type in your call sign and name over on the chat box. So Echolink only, please come now. I will give you extra time because it takes extra time. Please come now, Echolink only. Audio, which is possible. Go ahead and type in your call sign and name over on the chat box. So Echolink only.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J. No Weatherford.
Please come now, Echolink only.
W0MBC Whiskey 0 Mike Bravo Charlie, Echolink in Kansas City, Missouri. W0MBC Whiskey 0 Mike Bravo Charlie, Echolink in Kansas City, Missouri.
All right, very good. I think everybody else has checked in, so I got two additional check-ins above and beyond the long list over on Echolink. I got KG5BZJ, BZW, jeez, I know that, J. I'm getting ahead of my writing here. KG5BZWJ over near Weatherford, and then a new call, W0M Mike Bravo Charlie. That's Shane in Kent City, Missouri. Shane, welcome aboard. We do this net every Saturday night at 9:15 local time, and that would be your time as well. So glad to have you. Okay, we're up to 19 check-ins. I'll take any check-ins, any mode. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please come now. That would be your time as well. So glad to have you. Okay.
Number 5, Whiskey Tango Alpha, Jonathan in Irving.
Any check-ins, any mode. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please come now. That would be your time as well. So glad to have you. Okay.
Number 5, Whiskey Tango Alpha, Jonathan in Irving.
Any check-ins, any mode. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please come now. Okay, very good. Doing some paperwork here. I've got N5, Whiskey Tango Alpha. That's Jonathan in Irving. And then somebody gave me a relay here over on Echolink. I got Kilo Charlie 5 Kilo, Yankee Mike. That's Christopher over in Frisco. I've got you checked in as well. Okay, well, that's not bad for first round here. Let's go ahead and get started on the net. We'll take, let's see, open round, general announcements. Do we have any general announcements this evening? These can be of ham, astronomical, space, or general interest licensed hams. Please come now. Let's see. Open round, general announcements. Do we have any general announcements?
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike.
These can be of ham, astronomical, space, or general interest licensed hams. Please come now. Okay, we got NT5TM. Tony, go ahead. You have the net from KE5I6.
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not the last net of the evening. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion tonight at 10:30 right here on this repeater. Tonight we'll be talking about The Incredible Shrinking Woman. Oh, wait. Aaron points out it is in fact The Incredible Shrinking Everyone Else because it's The Amazing Colossal Man. To be discussed tonight at about 10:30, if you dare. Of course, we do have other fun things coming up. We have the Ham Fixins net. Wait, no, excuse me, this is the second Monday of the month. Second Monday coming up, not third. So we have the MCOM 101 net this Monday at 7 p.m. There is no lecture and lab this month, no lecture and lab at all, but we do have Winter Field Day coming up. The DARC will be participating in the special event station, Kilo 5 Tango, the Saturday the 25th. This is 2 weeks from today, Saturday the 25th, January 25th, up at Alfred Media. More details at w5sc.org. So be thinking about what you'll be doing for Winter Field Day. It's much less hot than the summer, but still a lot of fun. So, The Incredible Shrinking Everyone Else tonight at 10:30, MCOM 101 this Monday at 7, and Winter Field Day coming up 2 weeks from today, NT5TM. Winter Field Day is much less hot than the summer, but still a lot of fun. So, The Incredible Shrinking Everyone Else tonight at 10:30, MCOM 101 this Monday at 7, and Winter Field Day coming up 2 weeks from today.
Good, thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. I appreciate you doing all the announcements you did and are doing for the DARC and events that are going on in the area. All right, I'll abbreviate this stuff here. Don't forget the AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Group, has 2 nets available. Dallas residents, one's Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Just look for AMSAT on Echolink. It comes out of Houston, which is pretty cool. It's also available live via their website. Just look for the audio link. There's also a Dallas AMSAT net that's every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on the R-Link repeater, which is 147.140 megahertz, with the same PL tone as this station, 110.9er. For the audio link. There's also a Dallas AMSAT net that's every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on the R-Link Tony mentioned all of the different nets coming up, so please go to w5fc.org. You get additional information on all the nets that happen, as well as the latest and greatest on the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Remember, it is January. We do have most renewals for dues. If you're a member of the DRC or thinking about being a member of the DRC, now's your time. This is where we pay for the repeaters. We have for seven of them and one voter system, so that's a total of 8. We got to pay for those sites as well as maintenance, as well as other things with the DARC, including our communications trailer. Does it matter? Come to a meeting, you'll find out. It's actually pretty cool. So if you're a member, please go to w5fc.org and find out how you can sign up and pay your dues. There might even be a free tote bag involved. No, not really, but it's kind of cool to think that there would be one. Okay, let's see. Next up is tonight's Afterglow movie. I get to talk about this because I wrote this thing. So here we go. Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Manning looked at his watch. He sighed and put his ultra-dark radiation goggles on. It was Thursday, and nuclear explosion number 17 for the week was about to go off. Another mushroom cloud, another radiation-altering experience. He put his ultra-dark radiation goggles on. It was Thursday, and nuclear explosion number... Just this week alone, he personally blasted a giant ant, snuffed 2 prehistoric monsters, repatriated a glowing Soviet scientist with his family, placed some Spider-Man guy into a secret witness protection program, and sent some meddling alien in his robot back to his home planet. Did I mention it was Thursday? The mushroom cloud expanded, and Langan focused his binoculars on the giant hole left by the explosion. He sighed again. A giant, disoriented man appeared. Langan rung up the local army troops to get the latest desert menace under control. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, The Amazing Colossal Man from 1957, tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which is www.w5fc.org. By going to the club website, which is www.w5fc.org. All right, let's see here. Let's move on. We have Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events where you can look through a telescope. Chaz, KF5JHA, what do you want to bring us? I know you do give us the bit during Was Up, but if you've got anything additional you would like to add now is the opportunity. I'm calling you out, man. KF5JHA from KE5ICX. JHA, what do you want to bring us? I know you do give us the bit during Was Up, but...
Evening, everyone. Welcome to Skynet. Well, yes, the Texas Astronomical Society has meetings on the 4th Friday of each month. We'll talk about the exceptions when we get closer to the end of the year. But it's located, the meetings are located at UT Dallas on Campbell Road in the Science Learning Center in the lecture hall on the 1st floor. The meeting is at 7:30, and at 7 o'clock there's usually either a regular at UT Dallas on Campbell Road in the Science Learning Center in the lecture hall on the... So at 7 o'clock there's either a regular beginner's talk or information about the dark sky site. So come at 7 o'clock and the meeting begins at 7:30. Now this month the meeting will have a guest speaker of Rob Penningill. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. He's a PhD and an engineer, an astrophotographer, sidewalk astronomer, a volunteer astronomy educator. He's going to be talking about several different things, but about some trips that he's been on and several other things. So you might want to come to the next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society this coming 4th Friday. Several different things, but about some trips that he's been on and several other things. So Texas Texas Astronomical Society also has observing stations on Saturday nights, somewhere in the Metroplex. Texas Astronomical Society also has observing stations on first Saturday of each month is a Stargazer Star Party in Spring Park in Garland. The next one will be on February the 1st. The second Saturday is at Frisco Starfest at Frisco Commons Park in Frisco. That's occurring tonight. Is there anyone at the Frisco Starfest tonight that would like to give us a report? Now with your call sign. Today is at Frisco Starfest at Frisco Commons Park in Frisco. That's occurring tonight. Is there anyone at the Frisco Starfest tonight that would like to give us a report? Now with your call sign. Report would probably be coming over Echolink rather than RF because it's a long way up there. Okay, the third Friday of each month is the Cedar Hill Star Bolt at J.W. Williams Park at Cedar Hill. The next one will be on January the 18th. That would be a week from now. Stars of the Rock is at the Shores Park in Rockwall. The next one will be on January the 25th. Okay, if you need more information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, you can go to texasastro.org, the website. Do any of you out there need any fills or have any questions about the Texas Astronomical Society? Come now with your call sign. About the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, you can go to texasastro.org, the website. Do any of you out there need any fills or have any questions about the Texas Astronomical Society? Come now with your call sign. Oh, the Frisco event was canceled. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so I guess it's back to you, Tom. KE5ICX, this is KF5JHA. Thank you. Oh, the Frisco event was canceled. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. And this is KE5ICX. So next up is Bill, N5BB, the National Space Society Events and Activities. I think you got something going on tomorrow. Please tell us about it from KE5ICX. Thank you, Chaz. And this is KE5ICX. So next up is Bill, N5BB.
Sir Tom, lots of stuff going on in space. This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, in 5BB. National Society January meeting is tomorrow, the second Sunday of the month, at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, which is the southwest corner of 183 and Beltline, across the highway from Irving Mall. Again, the meeting starts about 3:30. The program will go from about 4 to 5, roughly. And it'll be a discussion about what's going on in space in 2020, the manned space activities. Speaking of these things, on Monday of this week, SpaceX launched 60, that's 60 in space. I'm sorry, my microphone slipped. 60 of their Starlink broadband internet communication satellites. One of them, which they nicknamed DarkSat, is partially painted black. They're experimenting to see if that will make it less annoying to astronomers who are really worried about having thousands of small satellites up in a swarm bothering their viewing. That will make it less annoying to astronomers. There's many other launches coming up, but I have some items from the latest copy of the North Texas spacecraft, which is the National Space Society North Texas Chapter newsletter. There is officially a U.S. Space Force now, by the way, established in December. The Boeing Starliner fails the key mission because the rocket didn't go off. They had a timing problem, but it did land properly. They just didn't get it up to the ISS altitude.
the capsule diddly and safely. Exos Aerospace, which is our local North Texas rocket manufacturer, who is located between Royce City and Greenville in that area, east of Dallas. They had a failure of their SARGE, S-A-R-G-E sounding rocket, which goes up nearly into space. They had a failure of it in October, and they now know it was a component that they'd already replaced. It was a composite part just below the nose cone. They had some tests on the ground indicated that part wasn't strong enough, and so they had strengthened it. And they did the test launch, and the strengthened part broke. And when it broke, it caused loss of control, and the rocket went out horizontally. It was a big loss. But at least they have some more experience. They're already targeting another launch date. They launch in New Mexico at Spaceport America site, which is north of Las Cruces, not too far from Truth or Consequences. Anyway, they anticipate having another test launch in the first quarter of 2020, they hope. And they are thinking about moving toward launching from a glider towed 1,000 feet behind an airplane. So they would take off an airplane towing a glider, and then the rocket would be on the glider, and it would take off. So they could go out over international waters away from people and take this thing off in places like that. So that's an interesting thing that they're thinking about doing. And there's lots and lots more space-related things going on here. The most exciting thing locally is the International Space Development Conference will be in Frisco, right north of Dallas, on May the 27th to 31st of this year, less than 5 months away. Registration is ongoing. This is the International Space Development Conference, when anybody who's anybody involved with space, commercial development will be there. So lots of exciting visitors going on there, and you too can participate. That's all I got for now about the National Space Society. We have a very active local chapter. Oh, by the way, we're helping with the science fair over at Fair Park here in a few weeks. I'm one of the judges. The National Space Society will be giving some special scholarship prizes for kids based on space-related science fair projects. So we're involved with that also. This is N5BB. Thank you, Tom. Space Society will be giving some special scholarship prizes for kids based on space-related science fair projects.
Thank you, Bill, and thanks for all the information. Does anybody need any fills? Please come now. Thank you, Bill. Go ahead and take additional information. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Golf Hotel. This is Nick in Carrollton. Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Golf Hotel. This is Nick.
Hey, let's see here. KG5 Whiskey Golf Hotel. I think your name is Ned over in Carrollton. Did I get that right? Please give me your name again.
It's Nick in Carrollton. Thank you. KG5WGH.
KG5 Whiskey Golf Hotel. I think your name is Ned over in... Got the call sign Caroline right, I got Carrollton right, and Nick, N-I-C-K is your name. Very good. I also am checking in N5 Alpha Juliet Delta. That's Aaron, somewhere in the ether over on Echolink. I got you checked in as well. Right, and Nick, N-I-C-K is your name. Very good. I also am checking in N5 Alpha Juliet. Right, so tonight's discussion, since I'm net control, actually found this article, so I'm no genius. I'd never be a genius, and I'm not even sure who I am. But in any case, Paul Sutter, an astrophysicist from the Ohio State University, and chief scientist at the COSI Science Center, Sutter is one of these guys who says the universe is flat. That's what he says. And he says, spoiler alert, in his article, the universe is flat, but there's a lot of subtlety packed into that innocent-looking statement. What does it mean for a 3D object to be flat? Okay, if you don't know already, either go to the stream or go check w5fc.org for the links, and then I can explain this in 3D since we're on 0D on the radio. So how do you measure the shape of the universe anyway? Since the universe is flat, is that it? Is there anything else to say? Well, let's find out. Since we're on 0D on the radio. So how do you measure the shape of the universe anyway? Since the universe is flat, is that it? Is there anything else to say? Yes, there is. First, we need to define what we mean by flat. The screen you're reading this on, well, actually you're listening to, the radio you're looking at is 3D, but the screen in front of it, the faceplate is 2D, and the computer that you're chatting with other people on is 2D because, well, you're not paying attention to me. So, you know that the Earth is curved, he says, I hope, but how can we quantify that mathematically? Such an exercise might be useful if we want to go around measuring the shape of the whole entire universe. One answer lies in parallel lines. If you start drawing two parallel lines on your paper and let them continue on, they'll stay perfectly parallel forever, or at least until you run out of paper. That was essentially the definition of parallel lines for the, a couple of thousand years. So we should be good. They'll stay perfectly parallel forever, or at least until you run out of paper. To repeat that exercise here on Earth. Oh, wait a minute. Let me put the new picture up because it makes more sense. Oh, jeez. Well, here we go. Well, you'll figure it out. Let's see. Let's repeat the exercise on the surface of the Earth. Start at the equator and draw a couple of parallel lines, each pointing directly north. As the lines continue, they never turn left or right, but they still end up intersecting at the North Pole. The curvature of the Earth itself caused these initial parallel lines to end up not so parallel, ergo, the Earth is curved. Turn left or right, but they still end up intersecting at the North Pole. The curvature of the Earth itself caused these initial parallel lines to end up not... The opposite of the Earth's curved shape is a saddle. On that surface, lines that start out parallel end up spreading apart from each other. In a swanky mathematical circles, this is known as, are you ready for this? Ultra-parallel. On that surface, lines that start out parallel end up spreading apart. So there you have it. You can measure the flatness of a structure just by watching how parallel lines behave. In our 3D universe, we can watch beams of light. If, say, two lasers started out perfectly parallel, then their long-term behavior would tell us important things. Remember that measuring the shape of the universe is a question for cosmology, the study of the entire universe. And in cosmology, nobody cares about you or me or solar systems or black holes or galaxies. In cosmology, we care about the universe only at the very largest scale. Small-scale humps bumps and wiggles are not important for this question. The universe has all sorts of deformations in space-time. The universe only at the very largest scale. Small-scale humps, bending of space-time. That's general relativity 101. Deformations in space-time only at the very largest scale. Well, a couple of light beams would naturally collide inside a wandering black hole or bend along weird angles after encountering a galaxy or two, but average all those small-scale effects out and look at the big picture. When we examine very old light, say the cosmic microwave background, that thing that causes static on your radio, that has been traveling the universe for more than 13.8 billion years, we get a true sense of the universe's shape. And the answer, as far as we can tell, to within an incredibly small margin of uncertainty, is that, are you ready for this? The universe is flat. We get a true sense of the universe's shape. And the answer, as far as we can tell, to within an that doesn't settle that. But this article isn't over yet, which means there's more to the story. Have you ever asked yourself if there's a difference between a cylinder and a sphere? More than likely not, but it's never too late to try new things. Take out your piece of paper with two parallel lines on it. Go ahead. Dig it out of the trash. Wrap one end around to meet the other, making a cylinder. Carefully observe the parallel lines. They remain parallel. That's because cylinders are flat. You heard it here first. Cylinders are flat. There's an important distinction between geometry and the behavior of parallel lines and topology, the way a space can get all twisted up. While the geometry of the universe is very well measured, again, it's flat, the topology is not. And there's a bonus fact. Not only can we not determine the topology of the universe from observations, but there are also no laws of physics that predict or restrict the topology. Again, it's flat, the topology is not. And there's a bonus fact. Not only can we not determine the topology of the universe from observations, with your 2D piece of paper, you can connect the ends of in very different ways. Connect one of the dimensions normally, and you have a cylinder. Flip the one edge over the other before connecting, and you've made a Mobius strip. Let's see here, connect the two dimensions, the top and the bottom, and one to each other, and you have a torus, aka a donut. In our 3D universe, there are lots of options, 18 known ones to be precise. Mobius strips, Klein bottles, and Issac Asimov. I have to say that while marching. Space manifolds are all non-trivial topologies that share something in common. If you travel far enough in one dimension, you come back to where you started. In the case of flipped dimensions, you come back to where your starting point. You find yourself upside down without having tried to do so at all. Of course, we've all looked to see our universes connected like this. We don't see any copies of galaxies. We don't see the cosmic microwave background intersecting itself. If the universe is pressed up, it's on scales far, far larger than we can observe. So don't get too excited by the possibility of living in a real-life version of the asteroids game, which, as you now know, is played on the surface of a donut. Learn more by listening to the episodes What's the Shape of the Universe on the Ask a Spaceman podcast. That's this guy, available on iTunes and on the web at askaspaceman.com. So I guess he's thrown down the gauntlet, flat as it may be, in 2 dimensions, maybe in 3 dimensions, and folded it over into a saddle or into a sphere or into a cylinder. In any case, you can check this all out and demand justice from this guy from the Ohio Space University. I didn't intend that, but I think that's what came out. Okay, this is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. I'll take additional check-ins, and then we will move on to space exploration news, space-related birthdays, and this week in space. But first, I'll take check-ins. Please come now.
Just to make Brenda happy. Whiskey Tango 9 Victor, Michael, Plano.
Move on to space exploration news, space-related birthdays, and this week in space. But first, I'll take check-ins. Please come now.
Just to make Brenda happy. Whiskey Tango 9 Victor, Michael, Plano.
Very good. WT9 Victor, that's Michael over in Plano. He's our net control for the fine movie this evening, The Amazing Colossal Man from 1957. He is now checked in as number 24. Okay, next up is Miss Kelly, K5KTX. You have tonight's info on space exploration news, space-related birthdays, and this week in history. Miss Kelly, K5KTX, go ahead from KE5ICX. You have tonight's info on space exploration news.
Thank you, Tom. This is K5KTX, and I apologize. I've been a little bit under the weather for the last few days, so hopefully my voice will hold up during this. But this was a really neat story from this past week. In 2019, when Wolf Cookier, I think that's how you pronounce his name, finished his junior year at Scarsdale High School, yes, that is high school in New York, he joined NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland as a summer intern. His job was to examine variations in star brightness captured by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS, and uploaded to the Planet Hunters TESS Citizen Science Project. He said, I was looking through the data for everything the volunteers had flagged as an eclipsing binary, a system where two stars circle around each other and from our view eclipse each other every orbit. About 3 days into my internship, I saw a signal from a system called TOI 1338. At first, I thought it was a stellar eclipse, but the timing was wrong. It turned out to be a planet. Every orbit. About 3 days into my internship, I saw a signal. TOI 1338b, as it is now called, is TESS's first circumbinary planet, a world orbiting two stars. The discovery was featured in a panel discussion on Monday, January the 6th, at the 235th American Astronomical Society meeting in Honolulu. A paper which Cookier co-authored along with scientists from Goddard, San Diego State University, and the University of Chicago and other institutions has been submitted to a scientific journal. The TOI 1338 system lies 1,300 light years away in the constellation Pictor. The two stars orbit each other every other 15 days. One is about 10% more massive than our sun, while the other is cooler, dimmer, and only one-third the sun's mass. TOI 1338b is the only known planet in the system. It's around 6.9 times larger than Earth, or between the sizes of Neptune and Saturn. The planet orbits in almost exactly the same plane as the stars, so it experiences regular stellar eclipses. In the system, it's around 6.9 times larger than Earth, or between the sizes of Neptune and Saturn. It has 4 cameras, which each take a full-frame image of a patch of the sky every 30 minutes for 27 days. Scientists use the observations to generate graphs of how the brightness of stars change over time. When a planet crosses in front of its star, from our perspective, an event called a transit, its passage causes a distinct dip in the star's brightness. But planets orbiting two stars are more difficult to detect than those orbiting one. TOI 1338b's transits are irregular between every 93 and 95 days and vary in depth and duration thanks to the orbital motion of its stars. TESS only sees the transits crossing the larger star. The transits of the smaller star are too faint to detect. Transits are irregular between every 93 and 95 days and vary in depth and duration thanks to the... These are the types of signals that algorithms really struggle with, said lead author Veselin Kostov, a research scientist at the SETI Institute in Goddard. The human eye is extremely good at finding patterns in data, especially non-periodic patterns like those we see in transits from these systems. This explains why Cookier had to visually examine each potential transit. For example, he initially thought that TOI 1338b's transit was a result of the smaller star in the system passing in front of the larger one. Both caused similar dips in brightness, but the timing was wrong for an eclipse. After identifying TOI 1338b, the research team used a software package called Eleanor, named after Eleanor Arroway, the central character in Carl Sagan's novel Contact, to confirm the transits were real and not a result of instrumental artifacts. Throughout all of its images, TESS is monitoring millions of stars, said co-author Adina Feinstein, a graduate student at the University of Chicago. That's why our team created Eleanor. It's an accessible way to download, analyze, and visualize transit data. We designed it with planets in mind, but other members of the community use it to study stars, asteroids, and even galaxies. At the University of Chicago. That's why our team created Eleanor. It's an accessible way to download, analyze, and visualize. TOI 1338 had already been studied from the ground by radial velocity surveys, which measure motion along our line of sight. Kostof's team used this archival data to analyze the system and confirm the planet. Its orbit is stable for at least the next 10 million years. The orbit's angle to us, however, changes enough that the planet transit will cease after November 2023 and resume 8 years later. NASA's Kepler and K2 missions previously discovered 12 circumbinary planets in 10 systems, all similar to TOI 1338b. Observations of binary systems are biased toward finding larger planets, Kostof said. Transits of small don't have as big an effect on the star's brightness. TESS is expected to observe hundreds of thousands of eclipsing binaries during its initial 2-year mission, so many circumbinary planets should be waiting for discovery. Transits of small don't have as big an effect on the star's brightness. TESS is expected to observe. And I also wanted to mention that yesterday, 11 NASA astronaut candidates, along with 2 from the Canadian Space Agency, graduated in a ceremony at Johnson Space Center. They were selected in 2017 from a pool of a whopping 18,000 applicants. They now join 37 other active NASA astronauts. Graduated in a ceremony at Johnson Space Center. They were selected in 2017 from a... In space history this week, starting January the 5th, back in 1917, the Smithsonian granted Robert Goddard $5,000 to study rocketry. In 1916, Goddard had requested funding from the Smithsonian Institution so that he could continue his research. His request was later published along with his subsequent research as Smithsonian Miscellaneous Publication number 2540 in January 1920. It was entitled, A Method of Reaching Extreme Altitudes. In this treatise, Goddard detailed his search for methods of raising weather recording instruments higher than sounding balloons. In this search, he developed the mathematical theories of rocket propulsion. It was entitled, A Method of Reaching Extreme Altitudes. In this treatise, Goddard detailed his search for... Also on January the 5th in 1972, President Nixon announces approval to develop the Space Shuttle. The Space Shuttle program, officially called the Space Transportation System, or STS, was the manned launch vehicle program from 1981 to 2011, administered by NASA and officially beginning in 1972. The Space Shuttle system, composed of an orbiter launched with 2 reusable solid rocket boosters and a disposable external fuel tank, carried up to 8 astronauts and up to 50,000 pounds of payload into low Earth orbit. When its mission was complete, the orbiter would re-enter Earth's atmosphere and land like a glider at either Kennedy Space Center or Edwards Air Force Base. External fuel tank carried up to 8 astronauts and up to 50,000 pounds of payload into low Earth. On January the 6th, back in 1998, NASA's Lunar Prospector launched on an Athena 2 rocket from Cape Canaveral. The Lunar Prospector then made a 4-day journey to the moon and entered lunar orbit. The Lunar Prospector was designed to map the moon's surface composition, look for possible deposits of polar ice, and measure magnetic and gravity fields. Just 2 months after its launch, on March 5th, 1998, scientists announced that the Lunar Prospector had detected hydrogen at both lunar poles, which they theorized to be in the form of water ice. This was the first direct evidence of the presence of water ice at the moon's shaded and frigid poles. On March 5th, 1998, scientists announced that the Lunar Prospector had detected hydrogen at both lunar poles. On January the 7th, back in 1968, Surveyor 7 launched. It was the 5th and final spacecraft of the Surveyor series to achieve a lunar soft landing. Surveyor 2 and 4 failed upon reaching the moon. The United States landed 6 human missions on the moon between 1969 and 1972 and has sent a number of robotic probes to orbit the moon in the last 2 decades, but NASA hasn't sent a robotic lander to the lunar surface since Surveyor 7. The primary objectives of the Surveyor program were to support the crewed Apollo landings. The spacecraft did this by aiding in the development of technology for landing softly on the moon and providing information on the conditions of the surface of the moon. Surveyor 7 was the only spacecraft in this series to land in the lunar highland region, where it took more than 21,000 photos. By aiding in the development of technology for landing softly on the moon and providing information on the conditions of the surface of the moon. On January the 8th, 1942, British physicist Stephen Hawking was born in Oxford, England. Hawking is most widely known for his research on black holes, which led to one of the first successful unions of the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. But he is also the author of many popular science books, including A Brief History of Time and The Universe in a Nutshell. For his research on black holes, which led to one of the first successful unions of the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. And this next item in history I thought would be particularly interesting to ham radio operators. On January the 10th, 1946, near Belmar, New Jersey, Lieutenant Colonel John H. DeWitt, Jr. bounced a radio signal off the moon. DeWitt, the laboratory director of the U.S. Army Signal Corps Evans Signal Laboratory, had given his project the name Diana after the goddess of the moon. In 1940, DeWitt attempted to bounce radio signals off the moon in order to study the Earth's atmosphere. He wrote in his notebook, "It occurred to me that it might be possible to reflect ultra-short waves from the moon. If this could be done, it would open up wide possibilities for the study of the upper atmosphere. So far as I know, no one has ever sent waves off the Earth and measured their return through the entire atmosphere of the Earth." On January the 10th, 1946, he succeeded. The first signals were detected at 11:58 a.m., and the experiment was concluded at 12:09 p.m. when the moon moved out of the radar's range. The radio waves had taken about 2.5 seconds to travel from New Jersey to the moon and back, a distance of over 800,000 kilometers. The experiment was repeated daily over the next 3 days and on 8 more days later that month. Out of the radar's range. The radio waves had taken about 2.5 seconds to travel from New Jersey to the moon. And finally, on January the 11th in 1962, in his State of the Union message to the Congress, President John F. Kennedy said, "With the approval of this Congress, we have undertaken in the past year a great new effort in outer space. Our aim is not simply to be first on the moon. Charles Lindbergh's real aim was to be first to Paris. His aim was to develop the techniques and the authority of this country and other countries in the field of the air and the atmosphere, and our objective in making this effort, which we hope will place one of our citizens on the moon, is to develop in a new frontier of science, commerce, and cooperation the position of the United States and the free world. This nation belongs among the first to explore it, and among the first, if not the first, we shall be." And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5 KTX. Back to you. The position of the United States and the free world. This nation belongs among the first to explore it, and among the first, if not the first.
Good, and thank you, Ms. Kelly, and I appreciate the report. This is really great and very rich history this week. It's most appreciated. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Let's see, I will take additional check-ins if you'd like to join us this evening. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. It's most appreciated. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet.
Kilo India 5, Delta Juliet, Juliet in McKinney.
This evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. It's most appreciated. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet.
Kilo India 5, Delta Juliet, Juliet in McKinney.
Kilo Charlie 5, Mike, Papa Oscar, Jamie, North Dallas. Kilo Charlie 5, Mike, Papa Oscar, Jamie, North Dallas.
Okie dokie. I've actually got 3 check-ins because I've got one from Echolink. I've got KF5 PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman. I've got KI5 Delta Juliet in McKinney. Could I get your name, please? KF5 DJJ. I've got one from Echolink. I've got KF5.
Roger, sorry, KI5 DJJ. My name is Josh Ruby out of McKinney, Texas.
Juliet in McKinney. Could I get your name, please? KF5 DJJ. No. Josh, thanks for checking in. I've got you. KF5DJJ over Josh in McKinney. And then finally, number 27 on the list, KJ5MPO, that's Jamie in North Dallas. Did I get your call right? I hope so, Jamie. Gotcha. KF5DJ.
Tom, it's Kilo Charlie 5, Mike Papa Oscar, KC5MPO.
Garnet, I should know that. I was just testing you, so I got you. Kilo Charlie 5 MP. Oh, gee, you've checked in so many times. Where did I leave? There's a guy on my grass. I'm yelling at him. He's walking on my grass. I got it figured out. Okay. Let's see here. Next up is Was Up. That would be Chaz, KF5JHA. Thank you, Chaz, for sending me all of your material like 10 seconds before the net. I'm good. I know you'll do that. And I have it already loaded into the slide machine, the one with the 35 millimeter things. I'm projecting it on the wall. I have a camera, and I've got it pointed at that, and I'm streaming it to the interwebs with my 300 baud modem. So, Chaz, KF5JHA, the net is yours. Projecting it on the wall, I have a camera, and I've got it pointed at that, and I'm streaming it to the interwebs with my 300 baud.
I thought I'd sent that just 7 seconds before. Okay, oh well. I've been watching Star Trek in the background. It's not a 35 millimeter projector. It looks like a flat screen TV. Oh yeah, the universe is flat. Yeah, and as I said in Echolink, that's the plain facts. Okay, maybe I should be quiet. Thank you, Tom. K5ICX. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this segment of Skynet Was Up. And I am a graduate of the Ohio State University. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I work at Brookhaven Community College, and we call this... Remember that Skynet's not only available on the Dallas repeater 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9, but also available to hams across the world via Echolink. And most weeks, Skynet is also has a video component, too. You can find those links on the w5fc.org website. And so, with radio, Echolink, and video, I say the Skynet is in 3D. But our friend Tony, NT5TM, says we are in 4D because we use the dimension of time. By the way, what goes on in the chat window in Echolink usually has nothing to do with what's going on the radio or what's on the video. Oh my gosh, there's a picture of me on there. I'm looking at the video component. So, to get the full 3D, or rather 4D version of SkyNet, you must be monitoring all 3 areas at the same time. Oh my gosh, there's a picture of me on there. I'm looking at the video component. So, to get the full week, the sun still sets around 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Actually, it's getting closer to 5:40 p.m., so it's getting a little bit later in the evening. And the Venus is seen easily in the southwestern evening sky shortly after sunset. Venus, of course, is the brightest regular object in the sky other than the sun or the moon. Venus will remain in the evening sky for the next several months. Last week, Bill, N5BB, asked a great question about what the furthest elongation Venus can be away from the sun. Last week, we were talking about around 45 degrees was the maximum elongation that Venus could have been, but I need to look up the exact answer. The research that I've done seems to indicate that 47.3 degrees is the maximum elongation that Venus can have from the sun. And so our estimates were close. The next greatest eastern elongation for Venus will be on March 24th, 2020, and it'll be around 46 degrees. Mars is visible in the early morning southeastern sky on the border between Libra and Scorpius. Actually, it's more in Scorpius now. Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn are too close to the sun to be seen. By February, we might be able to get a glimpse of Mercury in the evening sky, and we could start seeing Jupiter and Saturn in the early morning sky before sunrise. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. By February, we might be able to get a glimpse of Mercury in the evening sky, and we could start seeing Jupiter and Saturn in the early morning. The moon was full yesterday on January the 10th. The current moon phase is a waning gibbous. On January, let's see now. Oh, the moon will be at its third quarter on January 17th, and the moon will be new on January 24th. That reminds me, why is the moon so grumpy tonight? Well, I guess it's just the phase it's going through. On January 17th, and the moon will be new on January 24th. That reminds me, this week on January the 5th, that was just a few hours after Skynet was over, at 1:47 a.m. Central Standard Time, we celebrated the Earth's perihelion. That's when the Earth is close to the Sun in its orbit. Obviously, being close to the Sun is not the reason for the seasons. If that were true, we would be having 100-degree weather in Texas right now rather than having snow that we got this morning. I hope some of you at least get to see some snow. I get to see snow flurries. There were parts of North Texas up in Denton County, I believe, had 3 inches of snow. Anyway, that reminds me, what does a snowman call his offspring? See some snow. I get to see snow flurries. There were parts of North Texas up in Denton County, I believe, had 3 inches of snow. Would be children. Snowman call. Okay, all right. Tonight, right now, around 10 p.m., the winter sky presents us with the most bright stars during any other time of the year. Last week, I wanted you to download a star map at skymaps.com and start learning the bright stars. If you have that star map now, pull it out. We're going to cover that in just a moment. During any other time of the year. Last week, I wanted you to download a star map at skymaps.com and start learning the bright stars. If you have that star map now, pull it out. You've probably heard of the Summer Triangle, Vega, Deneb, and Altair. They're all in different constellations. If you had looked in the west just after sunset tonight, you could have seen those 3 stars. But looking at 10 p.m. tonight, right now, there is something called the winter circle of bright stars. And we're going to begin with the bright star, which is just about overhead right now. Seeing those 3 stars. But looking at 10 p.m. tonight, right now, Capella is in Auriga. Capella will be close to the center point on your star map. Then going clockwise, you'll find Aldebaran. That's the bright red bullseye of Taurus the Bull. Continuing in the circle in a clockwise direction, we'll arrive at the bright star on the knee of Orion, Rigel. Rigel was mentioned in Star Trek series. Have we talked about Star Trek just a few moments ago? Sirius is the next star in the circle, and it's the brightest star in the nighttime sky. The next star is Procyon and Canis Minor, the little dog. Now, on to the next 2 stars representing the heads of the Gemini twins, Pollux and Castor. And finally, back to the star Capella. At the center of this winter circle is the supergiant star Betelgeuse, or more accurately pronounced Betelgeuse. Now, I don't want to say Betelgeuse 3 times in a row, because we don't need that kind of trouble here. I'm trouble enough. The winter circle is even easy to find inside most light-polluted cities. So I hope you will continue to learn more stars, not just the winter circle, but other stars and constellations throughout this year. Now, don't forget that the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas has telescopes set up somewhere in the Metroplex on almost every Saturday night. Again, check the website, texasastro.org, for details. Now, is there a ham radio operator out there that's doing some observing tonight that would like to give us a report? If so, come now with your call sign. Every Saturday night. Again, check the website, texasastro.org, for details. Now, is there a ham radio operator out there that's doing some observing tonight that would like to give us a report? If so, come now with your call. Now, it must be too cold for most of you out there. All right, do any of you out there in radio have, or land, have any questions or need to fill on any information that I've given to you? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I might know the answer to your question. Or maybe I'll look it up and bring it back next year. Come out with your call sign if you have a question.
KG5P, I have a general astronomy question.
Oh, I think this is going to be a good one. Go ahead, Mike. Come out with your question.
All right, Chaz. Question is, how do you know when the moon is going broke? How do you know when the moon is going broke?
Go ahead, Mike. Come out with your question. Okay, I shouldn't do this, but I really do know the answer to this one. Because when it's down to its last quarter.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have to get new material here, obviously. KG5P.
Okay, I shouldn't do this, but I really do know. Well, Mike, you're going to have to do something else other than moon jokes because I am loony. Okay, so as the moon wanes during the last half of January, so do these words. So until next time, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control, KE5ICX. Tom, it's yours.
No, it's not mine. I had genetic tests done, and it's not mine. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Okay, without further ado, without tarrying, or whatever that is, or pterodactyls, we move on to the next section, which is the topic of the week. Mike, KG5P, you failed to stump the professional astronomer, but now it's time for your presentation on Issac Asimov. I think I know this guy. Well, I used to know this guy. But KG5P, tell us more from KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I assume you have the timer going because I can talk about this all night. I'm Mike, KG5P. My degree is in ant breeding. Okay, thank you, Tom. This is Institute for Typewriter Maintenance. I'd like to talk about Issac Asimov. Last week was his 100th birthday, January 2nd. Now, I'll talk about more of that in a second. What I have here is just some stuff that I pulled out of my head that I've been carrying around for about 30 or 40 years. And I could talk about this all night, but I don't obviously have the time. There's a couple great books of about Issac Asimov's biography. It's an autobiography, actually. There's four books right now. One covers his life from 1920 to 1953, and that's Of Memory Yet Green. And then the second book was called Of Joy Still Felt. It covers his life from 1954 to 1978. And then he died in April 6, 1992. 2 years later, another autobiography was published called I, Asimov, a Memoir, and that was in 1994. And then the fourth book was a compilation by his wife, who was also a science fiction writer, Janet Epson Asimov, and that's a combination of the first three books. And if you ever get a chance to read those, and if you're at all an Asimov fan, I strongly suggest that you do, because they're great books. They're also big books because each one of them is about the size of the Dallas Yellow Pages. Okay, so I'm going to go over a few things about Asimov that were in his books that I thought were quite interesting. Now, we say that he was born January 2nd, 1920. Now, Asimov, in his book, Of Memory Yet Green, says he doesn't really know when he was born. He said it was either 1920 or 1921. And this is in his book. so I'm not making it up. And he arbitrarily, I think he picked January the 2nd, just for reasons that I can't remember, but he picked that for some reason. Maybe because he didn't want to be born on New Year's Day. Some other things, he was born in Russia. His parents are Jewish, and his mother taught him Yiddish when he was about 5 years old. But he said he wished that she would have taught him to speak Russian instead of Yiddish. And going on through this 400-page book, he talked about his father, and his father had a radio, but he kept this on a high shelf where he couldn't, nobody could operate it and turn it on but him, his father. He wrote his first story at age 18. It was called The Cosmic Corkscrew. And if he knows where the story is, he never would admit to it, because apparently when he submitted to John W. Campbell at Astounding Stories magazine, a pulp magazine back in the 30s, John W. Campbell did not accept the story, but he did tell him what he needed to improve it. And basically, it was John W. Campbell that got him started as a writer in science fiction. John W. Campbell did not accept the story, but John W. Campbell also gave the start to other writers like L. Ron Hubbard, Robert Heinlein, and Arthur C. Clarke. But he didn't start Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury came from some other source. L. Ron Hubbard, as you probably know, was the father of that Scientology movement. And Asimov wrote about Campbell and how Campbell sort of bought into the Scientology thing, but Asimov thought it was stupid. L. Ron Hubbard, as you probably know, was the father of that. Campbell, by the way, also wrote a famous story called Who Goes There under a pen name, which was his wife's name. His wife's name was Donna Stewart, and he wrote this Who Goes There under Don A. Stewart. It's an excellent story. It was made into two movies, The Thing. The first movie, which came out in about 1957 with James Arness, which you've probably all seen, and then it came out again around, the remake came out around 1984. I remember when it came out because I was in Baltimore installing computer systems at Baltimore County General Hospital. And there was an article, a review of it in the Baltimore Sun, and they'd quoted Issac Asimov as saying that The Thing was the best short story ever written, turned into the worst movie ever made, referring to the 1957 version. I mean, I've seen it, it's okay, but Asimov didn't like it at all. The 1984 version was much truer to the book. If you've seen the movie, I think Kurt Russell was in it, and Wilford Brimley. That was an excellent movie. I think we should do that on Skynet sometime. I'm surprised we haven't done that already. Or not Skynet, but what's the other thing we do? Afterglow? Yeah. Going on in autobiography, it was mentioned last week that he didn't like to fly. Well, when he was during World War II, he was a chemist working for the U.S. Army, and he's developing these dyes that pilots could use to mark when they were downed. This yellow dye stuff, and he had to fly to drop these dye packages to test them out. And he said he never liked flying, and he never flew after that, unless he absolutely had to. He also talked about his kidney stone. He said it was the most painful thing that ever happened to him. Now, Asimov has written about 342 books, and I'd be a bigger liar than I am already if I admitted to have read all of them. I may have read 100 of them, but that's probably That's probably an exaggeration. He's written books on, besides science fiction, he's written a book on the Guide to the Bible. He's written on Shakespeare. I think he's got one called the Annotated Don Quixote that he wrote. He's written on physics, chemistry, mathematics. He's written mysteries. He also wrote under a pen name, Paul French. He wrote some children's books called Lucky Star, and apparently he didn't have the movie rights to them. And so he wrote them under a pen name because he was afraid that if they ever made him into a movie, he didn't want to be associated with them. You're probably familiar with the iRobot series of books, and those were great books. They're short stories, and if you ever get I can't believe you haven't read those. I mean, everybody should read the iRobots, because around, I don't know, in the late 30s or something, physicists discovered the positron, and Isaac Asimov, which is the antiparticle of the electron, and Isaac Asimov made his robots with positronic brains. He didn't really know what they were, but it sounded good. These robots have positronic brains, and they're just great short stories. There's basically two series of robots. One is the Susan Kelvin series, and the other series is Art O'Neill Oliva. And I'll talk about a little bit more about them. Computers were just coming out, and he'd heard about the UNIVAC computer, and he thought it had one vacuum tube. That's why they called it UNIVAC. His computer was going to be bigger and greater than the one vacuum tube computer, so he called his the Multivac, because it had more than one vacuum tube. And this is KG5P, and this is Skynet. And Tom, you're going to have to keep me track on time here. I'll try to move ahead. When he was working on his PhD thesis, I guess he had too much time, so he wrote a phony PhD thesis called The Endocrinic Properties of Resublimated Thiotimylene. When he was working on his PhD thesis, the substance would dissolve in water 1.2 seconds before it got in the water. Anyway, he figured that he was making fun of, PhD theses, I guess, and so, but he didn't think that his professors would notice it, because they didn't read that stuff. Being professors, they wouldn't read this type of science nonsense. But there were a lot of kids that got a hold of this thing, and they hounded the librarians at the New York City Public Library with all these phony references and things like that, so they could make their own thiotimylene. And the story goes is when Isaac Asimov was doing his orals for his PhD, after he was done taking the orals, then all the professors would go back in the room, and they'd discuss, I guess, whether he was going to he'd be offered a PhD or not. And so when he came back in, they said, all right, tell us about this substance known as thiotimylene. And so he thought his goose was cooked. But then after they said that, Dr. Asimov, so that was how they told him that he was awarded his PhD. Okay, another famous series that he wrote was the Foundation series. In fact, I read this about 30 years ago, and I'm reading it again. I just started reading the Foundation again, and it's just as good as it was the first time I read it. But what he did was he wrote a bunch of articles in Astounding Science Fiction magazine, and then later these were combined into a book, and there's into a trilogy, which he didn't think was going to sell because it came out about the time that the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out. And he told the publisher, says, "Oh, don't bother. Says, this is never going to sell." And they say, "Shut up. Just, we'll pay you $50,000 if you don't buy the rights to this book." And these books are Foundation, Foundation and Empire, and Second Foundation, and they're great books, and you definitely should read those. But going back to the Robot series, he wrote a couple books back in the 50s. One was Caves of Steel, which was a planet called Terminus that was humanity had moved out to this planet, and it was about a mile deep. The whole planet was one city, about 1 mile deep. Okay, and then they wrote another book about a couple of years later called The Naked Sun, and humans didn't like other humans. They didn't like even being on the same planet as other humans, and they would have robot companions, and that was called The Naked Sun. And there's a couple books on that, and then later on, back in the 80s, he combined the Foundation series with the Robot series, which included the Caves of Steel, and he wrote a series of books after those, which is a melding of the Foundation series and the Robot series. And he wrote in 1982, he wrote Foundation's Age. In 1983, he wrote The Robots of Dawn. 1985, he wrote The Robots of Empire. 1986, he wrote Foundation and Earth. And in 1993, he wrote Forward the Foundation. And then he also wrote another book in 1988 called The Prelude to Foundation that occurred before the actual Foundation series. So it's kind of like Star Wars. You know, you started off at Episode 3, and then later on you went to Episode 1. Later on in 1990, with Robert Silverberg, he wrote a book called Nightfall, which is a full-length novel based on his story that he'd written years before, Nightfall, which we've talked about here several times. Okay, I guess to wrap things up, and I could talk about this all night, and I love to, but I obviously won't. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick. But right before he died, he sort of he got some young writers, some protege writers, that wrote about 6 novels called Robot City, and it was kind of a continuing series. And what this was about was, you all know about the 3 laws of robotics, which he developed. The three rules or principles of robotics was number 1, a robot must not injure another human being. 2, he must obey orders given by a human being if it didn't conflict with rule number 1. And rule number 3, the robot must protect its own existence if it didn't conflict with rule number 1 and rule number 2. So what Robot City was about was there was a planet that was inhabited entirely by robots, and there was one human that had been murdered. Now, how could this happen? Because obviously a robot could never harm a human being, yet this human being was murdered anyway, and he was the only human on the planet. But there's about 6 books in that series, and that was about, he died shortly after that happened, after those books were published. I would like to take some questions or some more discussion on this, but I think Tom's going to pull the plug on me here pretty quick, so maybe we can pursue this another time, but it's great stuff.
Normal state.
Stuff, and anybody who's interested in astronomy or science or anything like that should be an Asimov fan. So back to net, Tom, and thanks for the opportunity of letting me discuss one of my passions here, the writings of Issac Asimov. Back to net, KG5P.
W5FC. This is KE5ICX. Mike, no, I am a huge fan of Issac Asimov, and I had a lot of the books that you described. I think he did like 250 books, including the Bible one, which I bought in the bigger tome, which was major money for me in junior high school when those books came out. So, yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Issac Asimov. Think about it. Maybe we can do a continuing series and talk about it. That would be fine by me. One of my favorites, along with Arthur C. Clarke, Robert Silverberg, and Robert Heinlein. Those guys I grew up on. So, no problem there at all. We're going to go ahead and close it out because it is close to 10:30.
You can go to w5fc.org. You'll find all the links for the rest of the net, which is basically technical stuff, Keplers for satellite passes and all of that. So that's fine. I'll take final check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is
Satellite passes and all of that. So that's fine.
Bravo, number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, 10, Dallas, low power. Bravo, number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, 10, Dallas, low power.
Right, let me go ahead and get over here. I've got WB4MSI, Ted in Dallas, low power. Welcome, as always, Ted, every week. Appreciate you checking in. I've got also, let's see here, Kilo Charlie 3, Charlie Delta Uniform, that's Tim. I'm not sure where Tim is, but he has checked in, so we got some new call signs here. Tim, if you want to plug that in over there, you can do that. And Billy says, Tom, I have the first edition of The World Inside by Robert Silverberg. So we've got some super fans out there of what I call hard science fiction. These are stories that involve real science involved with the stories, and these folks are a part of that. It's not fantasy; it's science fiction with the SF, with a capital S and F. Okie dokie. I'm going to go ahead and close it down because we are now at 10:30. But we had 29 check-ins this evening, including net control. So let me get to the end of the script here. Ham's participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. Really, we will take you on if you would like to be a net control. It's actually a lot of fun. If you'd like to try your hand at this, and you can contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets, N-E-T-S, at W5FC, that's whiskey5friedchicken.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as the other audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to W5Whiskey5friedchicken.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie X-Ray, Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:33 local time and returning the repeater to normal use. 7:73, everybody, and enjoy discovering the universe. We will come back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and you can check in and discuss The Amazing Colossal Man from 1957. Our movie of the week. Dun, 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 dun. Never mind. This is KE5ICX, and I'm clear for now. See you in 5 minutes.
Hey, Tom, no music, although it wasn't really music. This is Inside BB. While you're waiting, everybody write down, you've got to go look for the Issac Asimov short stories of the Black Widowers. The Black Widowers Club was based on a real club Issac Asimov was a member of, the Trapdoor Spiders, and some of the key people in the stories were people that he knew, like L. Sprague de Camp and other people, Lester Del Rey, etc. Anyway, they're great mystery stories. They're short stories, and they were collected in some little compilations. They were originally published in magazines. The Black Widowers stories by Issac Asimov. This is inside BB. Great mystery stories. They're short stories, and they were collected in some little compilations. They were originally published in magazines.
Got my own copy, KG5P.
By Issac Asimov. This is inside BB. I bought several paperback books that were compilations of the stories. I loved them, and so did Issac Asimov. He later said that some of his favorite stories, they were pretty short and little mysteries. Somebody was asked to justify their life, and they didn't think anything was interesting, but there was some kind of mystery in their life they never figured out, and the people there were able to help figure out that mystery. Anyway, Mike, I'm really sad that Issac Asimov got the blood disease he got and died so early. Inside BB.
Yeah, he was 72 years old, which is far too young. If you read his book on Shakespeare, for instance, on Hamlet, he gives his history of what the world was like in Hamlet's day, and he starts out by saying Hamlet is not the little pissant country that it is today. It covered huge amounts in northern Europe and southern Scandinavia. It's really great because you can really put Hamlet into perspective. So I'll be back in a couple minutes here, KG5P. Northern Europe and southern Scandinavia. It's really great because you can really put Hamlet into perspective.
Sized movie to discuss. Har, har, har. Inside BB. Sized movie to discuss. Har, har, har. Inside BB. WD9V. Michael, Plano. And no, I didn't see the... Wait, what's that? I'm in CS? Oh, crap.
pretend that I didn't see this turkey and sit this one out. Why is it that so many websites have confused old with classic? Case in point, The Amazing Colossal Man from 1957. It's old, but it's not a classic. In case you haven't guessed, this is your Afterglow Movie Net, and I'm your reluctant host. Tom said I had to do it, and apparently I'm supposed to wear something. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but I'm going to pretend it's a hat. Hopefully, everybody had plenty of time to powder your noses, because if not, I'm not waiting on you. I want to get this over with. Usual, tonight, we'll discuss a movie. Usually discussing, in theory, the plot, characterization, and the frequently not so special effects. But the discussion often wanders, much like my attention did during this particular movie. The plot, characterization, this is where I'd normally say it's like a book club. The discussion often wanders, much like my attention did during this particular movie. Mr. Tom lets us know what movie to watch ahead of time so that we'll have time to make notes and prepare snappy commentary for Saturday night. If you're not on the notification list, then go to Afterglow Movie, that's 2 words, on Facebook, and sign up. Or you can send an email to Tom at ke5icx@yahoo.com, and he'll put you on the list. The list, I say. You don't even have to bribe him, but it never hurts. So he says, WT9V, yahoo.com, and he'll put you on the list. Right craptacular waste of presumably good film stock is The Amazing Colossal Man. Yes, I know I already said that, but if you're like me, you may have been trying to desperately forget it. Not so fast. It has managed to get an amazing 4.5 out of 10 on IMDb. I don't know who they bribed for that. And a frankly stunning 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. It has managed to get an amazing 4.5 out of 10. Sum up the plot. In short, while overseeing the atomic tests in the Nevada desert, Army Colonel Glenn Manning, who is played by Glenn Langan, is exposed to excessive amounts of radiation. As a result, Manning grows and grows and grows at the rate of 10 feet per day. This sudden height adversely affects the poor man's mind, and soon he's mad as a hatter. Looking for all the world like Mr. Clean in a diaper, the Colossal Man goes on a murderous rampage, laying waste to numerous landmarks. And soon he's mad as a hatter. Looking for all the world. There's about 683 words of plot over on Tom's favorite crack team reporter researcher site, but I'll let him or you read that yourself if you want. Me, I don't want. No, I ain't gonna. That's the advantage of being net control. I get to do, mostly, what I want. And right now, what I want to do is take check-ins, assuming anybody is out there. After last week, I'm not at all sure. Please come now with your call sign, name, location, and whether or not you'll admit to having watched this incredibly fine film. This is WT9V, and I am all ears, although I haven't quite gotten the file that I need to, put this stuff in. So I'm rambling. And I am all ears. Now I'm ready. Please come now. File that I need to, put this stuff in. Here.
This is N5BB, November 5. Bravo, bravo. Bill and Irving, I did see the movie.
November 5, India, Mike, Sierra, JJ, in Carrollton. And yes, I saw this spectacular film.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. And I can't believe it, but I watched it, and I didn't die.
It's KG5P. It's Mike. Yes, I watched it when I wasn't trying to get into the watch party. Finally got in. I was only about 15 minutes behind everybody else, though. KG5P. Wasn't trying to get into the watch party. Finally got in.
This is
5 Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda. I'm in DeSoto. And I did watch this movie. I stayed awake. And I am somewhat damaged by it, but I'll survive. My name is Brenda. I'm in DeSoto.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Earl in Dallas. I watched the movie. I'm forever changed. Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Earl in Dallas.
Of Golf Lima Delta, Randy, Rowlett. I saw this movie when I was a kid, but not since then. So my memory is highly altered. Of Golf Lima Delta, Randy, Rowlett. I saw this movie when I was a kid, but not since then. So my memory is highly altered.
Kilo, Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville. Yes. 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 I saw it. Kilo, Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville. Yes. 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 I saw it.
Okay, so I heard some doubles in there. I will come back and we will try that. I will read the list after I go over to Echolink and see if there's anybody there. Yes, Tom, I'm not going to forget Echolink. It's actually in my notes, believe it or not. So, anybody on Echolink? Now's your turn. Echolink and see if there's anybody there. Yes, Tom, I'm not going to forget Echolink. It's actually in my notes, believe it or not. So, anybody on Echolink?
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did not get an opportunity to see this fine film, but I will hang out. I may have comments, so just keep me in the loop. KFI PDF. This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did not get an
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu, Whiskey J near Weatherford. I did happen to see it.
KFI PDF.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu, Whiskey J near Weatherford. I did happen to see it.
I didn't understand whether you said you saw it or didn't see it. Would you please let me know whether you did or didn't?
My apologies. I did, as in, sorry. Delta, India, Delta. How about that? I did, as in,
I didn't mean you to get all, choked up about it, but, okay, cool. All right, so let's see. I have N5BB, N5IMS, NT5TM, KG5P, WB5OZL, KF5DSK, K5GLD, KE5ICX, KF5PDS, KG5BZW. There were a couple of doubles during the RF section. Did I miss anybody? If so, please let me know now. KF5PDS, KG5BZW. There were a couple of doubles during the RF section. Did I miss anybody? If so, please let me know now. I'll assume that I didn't miss anybody, or that everybody finally got in line. Well done, folks. So, yeah, here we are. Okay. I'm gonna, see what Bill in 5BB has to say about his thoughts on the matter. WT9B is asking. What did I just say? Yep, that's what I said. I start rambling and I forget things, but I've said my call sign enough times that I usually remember it now. Not always, usually. Bill, your turn.
This is N5BB. Well, I have seen this movie or parts of it a number of times over my lifetime. Back in the late 1960s and maybe early 70s, seems like on Saturday afternoon they were trying to figure out what to put on the television to distract you, and they would sometimes throw this and other black and white bad science fiction movies on the TV. And then I saw it earlier tonight. In general, I actually think it's slightly better than average for the nuclear radiation causes giant animals and humans movies. There's a number of these. It's either a woman or a man or an insect. Usually things like that, like scorpions or spiders. It's all related, you remember, to Godzilla, another giant creature created by atomic radiation, or awoken by atomic radiation. Again, it's not as bad as some of the others, but that doesn't mean it's good. The one additional comment I'll make about stupidity, although there's many technical stupid things in this movie, is their comment about this being the first plutonium explosion they were going to witness long after the Korean War. As you guys should all remember, maybe you don't, but the Trinity Project, the first nuclear explosion out in the New Mexico dinner was, the New Mexico desert, was a plutonium bomb. And the bomb that the U.S. dropped over Nagasaki, Japan, was also a plutonium bomb. So that was just bad history. In 5BB. And the bomb that the U.S. dropped over Nagasaki, Japan.
5IMS from WD9V. Your turn.
That was just bad history.
Well, let's see. I most recently watched it last night, so it is fresh in my mind. But I do believe the first time I saw this fine film, trademarked, of course, was on Chiller with Dr. Igor. It could be Igor. It's kind of hard to tell. Which aired after the news, after the 10 o'clock news on Friday and Saturday nights there in my hometown. So it started at 10:30 p.m. And generally, this was after I gave up sharing a room with my brother and moved down into the basement. And being I had a TV at the foot of my bed, my sister would come down and join me, and we would watch the thrillers and whatever. So gave us something to do. The downside, my parents' room was directly above us, so we had to keep the sound kind of down because we were supposed to actually sleep instead of watch TV. Let me reset. But what's nice is she used to get mad at me because I would get bored and fall asleep during it, and she would get scared and wake me up. But enough about that. Now, on this fine film, I did thoroughly enjoy the selection of cars. They had, basically mostly Ford products during the movie, although when they shifted to Vegas, you did see a lot of Cadillacs and things like that. But, still they were, really nice, late 50 vehicles, so, they were good cars. Like I said, like I always say, I try and find something good about every movie. Well, that was my good about this movie. Now let me discuss the plot. P for poor, L for lousy, O for awful. All right, I know awful starts with an A, but hey, once you see this movie, you won't. T for terrible. That just about sums it up. This is N5 IMS. L for lousy, O for awful. All right, I know awful starts with an A, but hey, once you see this movie, you won't.
I'm sorry, JJ. I'm really sorry that it's still fresh in your mind, but don't blame me. It wasn't my fault. Blame Tom. And as far as the O, you're very close. It was awful, like OFF. Anyway. Okay, so KE5 ICX. I noticed that you waited until the end so that you could take notes. Your turn. Anyway. Okay, so KE5 ICX.
Wait a minute, I'm not at the end. You've got Billy and you got Jay coming up, so I am not at the end. Okay, Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Manning. This is the guy that something happens. He goes in and he gets, everything happens and he turns into that guy. All right. I'm going to be the contrarian here. I thought the story was better than everyone makes it out to be. What I disliked about it, and I'm talking about the plot, is that the final reconciliation was not that good. So let me elaborate. What I disliked about it, and I'm talking about the plot. First off, this story is a metaphor. It has everything to do with how the characters act and react to the situations that they deal with. I think it's Manning, I'm not sure, whoever the protagonist is in this thing, the guy that grows in the thing is that he becomes a fish out of water, becomes this guy that has to figure out what the hell he's going to do with his life going forward. And it is a rip-off of The Incredible Shrinking Man in a sense. But this part, they try to explain or pawn off the fact that he's going crazy in the process. But going crazy is another one of these things where you have to decide how are you going to handle that. And when he becomes unmanageable, then they decide they're going to have to do something about him. And this is true with anyone who has any sort of problems or concerns, and it kind of involves all of us. What could happen in the end? Do we you know, how do we cope with things? And if we're not able to do it in a civilized manner, then suddenly bad things happen to you. For all of us, what could happen in the end? Do we, you know? And this is what happens to Manning through the whole thing. He becomes less and less capable. Now they take and use sort of this dumb idea that his heart doesn't grow, and I think this came about as kind of this excuse rather than keeping it closer to home, which is that you go slightly crazy in the process and the prospect of not being able to handle your situation. So they say, well, your heart doesn't grow any bigger, so that's the excuse for the fact that he's going crazy. Not that the fact that any and everybody who's watching the movie could indeed have issues and metaphoric things that could fall into play instantly. So I think this was a pullback from the movie, and I think that they crippled it quite significantly by doing that. Fall into play instantly. So I think the idea and thought process. I'm sorry. I thought this movie was a little better than everybody else thought. In this sense, when he goes into Las Vegas. There were a number of objects that were his size that he could relate to, but it was superficial because there was nothing there. You go down the strip, and he picked up the slipper, he picked up the cowboy facade and other things, and he knows that it's superficial. There's nothing you can do with any of that stuff. So he destroys it, and then the cops down below, trying to maintain the situation as little tiny people as they are, you're going to have to pay for that. That's destruction of public property. Yeah, when you're crazy, destruction of public property is your way of it saying, there's something going on here, and you're not noticing. Also, the questions inside of the tent when he was talking to the sergeant, not the sergeant, but the corpsman when he comes in, and the corpsman's standing there, and he knows this is his superior officer, and he stays there while we're wondering what's going to happen to Manning in the thing, whether Manning's going to kill him or not, or go crazy, or just simply, play the superior in the whole thing. That's a metaphor for any person in, line of control or chain of command. And, the guy stood there and just stayed until Manning went just totally nuts and just laughed it all off, and finally he left. The awkwardness of that I thought was very interesting. That's another metaphor for what goes on with people and how far do you go? How far do you listen to this stuff until finally you say, I'm getting out of here. Plus the fact that the guy is so big, all you do is just crush him, and he's dead. But the corpsman just stayed there and maintained until finally he reached a point, and the laughing and said, I'm out of here because I don't want to be here. So I thought that was rather interesting and very awkward when it was shown. The corpsman just stayed there and maintained until finally he reached a point, and the laughing. And this is KE5ICX. I kind of pulled more from it. What I was disappointed in the film is the end, which was sort of the King Kong thing. You build this up, and you do have kind of this interactive thing going on with the characters as the axiomatic thing happens when Manning starts going out of control. And in the process, distances himself from friends and everyone else because there's no one who can relate to him, which is kind of cool. and tragic at the same time because we all go through that. But then, in the end, he goes off and jumps off of, what was it, the dam, Hoover Dam, and that's the end, and somehow or another that's unconvincing and an easy way to get rid of him when we're building up, I think, a more complex relationship than maybe you might think. So he goes down, he dies, and everybody lives happily ever after. That was a terrible ending. One of the worst. Probably the only thing that would have redeemed it is when King Kong fell on top of him and they embraced and died. That would have made a better ending. KE5ICX. Probably the only thing that would have redeemed it is when King Kong fell on top of him and...
Frankly, Tom, I'm stunned that you want to be a contrarian. Okay, no, I'm not. WT9V. Let's see. Next up, that would be Tony. I don't know if Tony needs to, have warning to get to the radio, but if Tony needs warning to get to the radio, this is your warning, Tony. WT9V.
Well, I am really impressed by Tom's really diligent and amazing effort to salvage this movie. It would never have occurred to me to think with actual thoughts and effort about the meaning of the movie or what the characters were doing, because I didn't. So I'm very impressed that Tom did, and that does, I guess, make the movie slightly more interesting in a sort of a distant way, although not interesting enough to justify having watched it. Of course, scientifically, the plot was silly, even given the logic of the movie. Like if you view the magic of Harry Potter as an internally consistent or not. He's going like crazy, but of course his hair doesn't grow, and never mind his heart, his teeth and his brain would have presented some other issues. Oopsie. Like if you view the magic of Harry Potter as an internally consistent or not. He's going like crazy, but by way of redeeming features, the movie was relatively short, and that's particularly worthwhile, not only because it means I didn't have to spend as much time watching it, but because it meant it avoided the trap of using vast amounts of stock footage to pad the movie out longer. This movie only did a little of that, and that was a pleasant surprise. It was a little padded, but the plot was not ridiculously stuffed and spaced with stock footage. And on a superficial level, I didn't get a metaphor out of his destroying horrible, tacky, stupid things in Las Vegas. I just felt glad seeing tacky things in Las Vegas being destroyed. That always makes me happy in a movie. But the plot point where I am in complete agreement with Tom, and I think Tom was spot on, was even by the standards of B-movies that you're just supposed to eat popcorn and make out and not really watch, the ending was really oddly paced and abrupt. That was just a plot fail right there. There was... They threw away their suspense. We weren't really worrying if they were going to treat him in time. That hypodermic didn't seem to matter. We really weren't worried if he was going to reconcile with her, because he didn't. They just kind of threw it all away and ran out of film and ended the movie. So they kind of goofed up there. That's all I got. But Tom, you tried really hard, and I'm really impressed. NT5TM.
Oh, thank you, Tony. That was good. And like you, I do like watching movies through Tom's eyes because they see things that I don't. I don't know if the things are there, but it's always entertaining. And yes, I was thinking the same thing about other bits growing when I was looking at his fingernails in one of those close-up shots going, no. Anyway, no. KG5P, Mike and Richardson, who saw the movie, and what do you have to say about it? WT9V.
WT9V, KG5P. Yeah, I saw the movie, and then I saw, after that, I watched Charlie Chan and the Chinese Siamese cat or something. Number 2 son. and also the Irish Charlie Chan. Yeah, I saw the movie and then I saw it. Oh, I don't know. This movie was silly. I mean, it was so silly that John Goodwin movie, Matinee. Great movie. We should really do that sometime on this net. Then they made a parody of it, and it was about it was a kind of movie within a movie, and the movie within the movie was Mant, about this guy who was a shoe salesman. He was at the dentist, and at the same time he got a dental X-ray, and ant bit him, and turned him into a mant. Half man, half ant, or something like that. A great movie. John Goodwin. This 50-foot man, he weighed 18,000 pounds or something. He still had a normal voice. Like his vocal cords didn't change in length or anything like that. So he just talked like he normally did, as a regular human being sized, instead of having vocal cords that were 3 feet long or something like that. And as we all know, frequency is to the inverse of the wavelength. So, but I guess I didn't know that when they made the movie. Yeah, they destroyed the Dunes Inn. He just beat him to it by a few years. That's all. I like the Dunes. That was when Vegas was good. Back when Sammy Davis and Frank Sinatra and all those guys were there. I still old enough to remember that. They had them in. They used to actually do that. They would take soldiers and they put them down in a trench or something like that, and then they'd drop a nuclear bomb about ground zero, about 1 mile away from them. And the bad part about that is they would get radiation poisoning, except the trouble was it wouldn't happen immediately. It would take 10, 15, 20 years, and then they'd start coming down with all these rare forms of leukemia and stuff. I see PBS once had a show about that. They called the atomic veterans. But they had no idea what they were doing back then. Part of it was, our government wanted to see what they could do, what the effects are. What a better audience and people they could order to sit down in a trench. So I don't know. I mean, it was sad. To me, I think it was one of the huge mistakes this country has made, among many, but this was another, by using military as guinea pigs in these experiments. But I guess they found out what they wanted to know. Back to net KC5P.
The comment about his voice not changing was really the only note I had about special effects, and you went and blew it. Or used it up first. Thanks a lot. I'll remember this. Next try I probably won't. The comment about his voice not changing. In case anybody is wondering, we're talking about the amazing Colossal Man. Which wasn't really amazing, just colossal. So, next up on my list of contestants is Brenda, WB50ZL. Take it away, Brenda. This is WT90.
Thank you. This is WB50ZL. Well, one thing I can say about the story, it was pretty simple, and you might take that as an insult. It was fairly easy to follow. It just wasn't complicated at all. This is WB50ZL. Well, one thing I can say about the story, it was pretty simple. But I didn't think it was a particularly good story. On the other hand, what struck me a lot is just the pathetic nature of this guy. It made me think of that story by Franz Kafka, Metamorphosis, where this man just inexplicably wakes up one morning transformed into a 6-foot cockroach. And, you have a real dilemma when you wake up transformed. What do? And you know it's not going to end well. Your life will never be the same. And you're doomed. And the guy kind of knew he was going to die pretty soon, and there was just nothing that could be done for it. And it's just really sad. And a lot of stories like this where someone is transformed into a fly or some monster. And there was just nothing that could be done. And there's just no help for them. One thing that took away from his, from the sympathy is that he turned into such a jerk. And, you know, and you think, yeah, it's tough, but everybody's trying to help you. You could at least be nice and appreciate their efforts. They're suffering as well. But he was sort of manic, alternately manic and depressive. And, you know, I understand that, but it did take away from the sympathy for him a bit, for me. Suffering as well. But he was sort of manic, alternately manic. And, yeah, I've never been a particular fan of Vegas, but I think that's okay that he tore it up. The end was sort of like, well, we got to end it now. We're out of time. We're out of budget, so let's do it. So it was sort of unsatisfying there at the end. I'm a particular fan of Vegas, but I think that's okay that he tore it up. I didn't understand the whole thing about his heart not growing. First of all, it doesn't make any sense. The rest of him grows. And none of this makes any sense because bones and teeth have to have a long time to grow. And things have to be kept in proportion. But, you know, it's just a movie. All right, back to that, WB5OZL. Because bones and teeth have to have a long time to grow.
Oh, it was the heart part that didn't make any sense? Okay. K5, TSK, Bernal, you saw this fine film. What do you think about the amazing colossal man, the plot or lack thereof? What you got, bro? WT9V.
This is K5 TSK. Well, there's so many things about the film that's just not believable that, you know, they're sitting in this trench wearing blackout glasses, and then all of a sudden they hear this airplane, and he's able to look with the blackout glasses on, he's able to look through binoculars and see the plane that has no running lights. And there's no light in the desert. I assume there wouldn't be. But so many things, you know, didn't make sense that, you know, only the colossal man was affected. What about the other soldiers in the ditch? None of them have any problems. I mean, earth and ditch won't really provide that much protection. You know, supposedly he was burned. What happened to everyone else? You know, he gets a shot of this supposedly to, you know, reverse his growth, but either he didn't have any effect or he was just too angry. And I guess in Vegas, you know, well, I'll just, you know, tear things up. But, oh, they're shooting me. Oh, that hurts. But they shoot him at Hoover Dam, and it's like, well, he just falls in and disintegrates. You know, if he had really fallen and broken something, the lights would have gone on in Las Vegas. I saw this film. This wasn't my first time, but I was hoping for something a bit better. You know, plot-wise, it's like something goes wrong, and there's just no way out of it. K5 TSK, back to net.
And remember, don't blame me, blame Tom. It's his fault. K5GLD, Randy and Rowlett. Yes, you saw this way back when. Have all of the things that people have been talking about brought back nightmares? Take it away, Randy. This is WT9B. Randy and Rowlett. Yes, you saw this way.
Oh, negative. These are all good memories for me. I mean, I was wondering initially, is this where the guy gets so big and his heart doesn't grow that he dies? And that was answered. That was yes. I saw this. I'm 60 now. I saw this back when I was single digits, maybe 8. And in Memphis, we had a guy named Savad who did this kind of funky Dracula thing. Saturday nights, his real name was Davis, so Davis backwards is Savad. And he showed this movie. And in Memphis, we had a guy named Savad who did this kind of funky 8-year-old self. It just blew me away. It was just awesome. I loved it. I have not seen it since I was 8, but I know what movie you're talking about. And from my 8-year-old self, I give it 2 thumbs up. Just an awesome movie. One of those movies you have to watch. You can't watch it as an adult. You have to watch it as a kid. So just let your adult mind go and just watch it as a kid. K5GLD. Awesome movies. One of those movies you have to watch.
Well, thank you, Randy, and I think you may have a point. That if I were 8, I probably would have been completely awestruck. Cat 5 PDS, Miss Billy and Sherman. You didn't see it, but I bet you have something to say. WT9V. Completely awestruck. Cat 5 PDS, Miss Billy.
Well, good evening, Michael, and everyone on the net. Yeah, been interesting comments. Sorry I didn't get to see it, but I have been enjoying everybody's comments on the net, and I heard somebody mentioned about the incredible shrinking man. It sounds like this was the opposite end of the spectrum, except did this man like continually grow, I guess, and then finally outgrow his capacity for his biological systems to sustain him? And I was interested in Brenda's comment about, being kind of a sad story, because that's exactly how I felt when I watched The Incredible Shrinking Man. When he finally just shrunk and just winked out of existence, I was left very sad by that. So I totally get the sadness factor, because it's like, man against nature, nature's gonna win. So no matter, it'd be interesting to see an updated version of this with more updated technology and see the take on it. But I'm sorry I didn't get to see it, but I'm enjoying everybody's comments, and keep me in the loop. So thanks for everything, and I'll return it to you. This is KF5PDS, back to net. I'm sorry I didn't get to see it, but I'm enjoying everybody's comments.
And now it's time for Jay. What you got for us tonight, Jay?
Like everybody else. About an updated version. I've not seen any direct claims of this, but I think Stan Lee and Jack Kirby might have something to say about updated version. I didn't even realize. I kept on thinking about the Hulk when I was watching this film, and I didn't even realize just how much they could have actually stolen from this. Now, it didn't really even occur to me until like around this time to say, let's actually go into comparison and contrast. And this came out before the first comic of The Incredible Hulk. So, but I from what I've seen not source this film as an inspiration, but I can't, it being out there, I can't help but think that it didn't, by osmosis or something, have a little bit of impact because, instead of, I don't know, I'm not the biggest Marvel or fan, but I think the comparisons are rather obvious. I know we got Marvel or more to come in this metal. I forgot what the heck I was going to say. After that, plot-wise, it just, I guess the first thing that came to mind was just, I always get annoyed when mass count pops into existence. So, yeah, and that's one of my biggest of hope, but at least, there do seem to be generally better stories that have come out of that. So they don't explain, okay, he's hardly eaten enough to be gaining that much mass and everything, and as others have said, there's just not that much that really makes sense about the film. At the very least, I did actually find myself laughing at a few of the jokes that were, intended to be actual jokes. I don't think they took themselves terribly seriously to, create the film. But there's not really, I don't know that there's much really. If it weren't for the Hulk, I don't think this film would be the classic or whatever the heck it is. Let me reset. I don't know that there's. Okay. Hopefully I didn't time out on the repeater end. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I also wanted to say one other thing. There is a MST3K version. I'm tempted, if I'm going to see this thing again, I'm tempted to watch it with that. But that's all I really got to say at this point. KG5BGW, back to that. Version. I'm tempted, if I'm going to see this thing again, I'm tempted to watch it with that.
I have to agree. I think the MST3K version would probably be vastly superior. Let's see. I don't really have much to add myself. The biggest thing I think I have is that I was very disappointed in the ending. It's like, we're gonna, give him this injection, which seemed awfully small for, the 50-foot man, and I was very disappointed. Kill him. Done. Everything's good. Everybody go home. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. This is the Afterglow movie, and we're talking about the amazing Colossal Man. I think, something like that. Which means it's time for characterization. Bill, did you see any characterization in here? It's your turn. N5BB, this is WT90. Something like that.
This is N5BB. Well, sure, his fiancée, she breaks all the rules so she can try to see him at the hospital. And then he kind of scorns her. He leaves her. I don't know. It's this very sad movie there near the end. Like I say, as other people have said, the ending of the movie wasn't very good. They ran out of plot, so they just let him jump overboard. I don't know. The guy was, he was a rule breaker too, not just his fiancée. Remember, he's the one that broke the rules to get out of the trench, to run over to the airplane, even though they were telling him go back. He didn't go back. The atomic bomb broke the rules. It didn't go off correctly, which again broke all the rules of physics. I don't know. The doctors are the standard doctors in these kind of movies. Just standard plot, not a lot of deep characterization. Again, I agree with Tom, though. It wasn't the worst of these movies, although I think it was, below the 50% point. But it wasn't the worst of them. The worst ones were the ones using insects. That's all I got. No more comments about this movie, Anti-BB. Below the 50% point. But it wasn't the worst of them.
Thank you, Bill. And that means it's time for JJ in 5IMS. What are your thoughts on characterization of the amazing Colossal Man? Starting to forget. Oh, yeah, there it is. Right there on the screen in front of me. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. The amazing Colossal Man. JJ, your turn. From WT9V.
I actually thought there was some characterization in there. You had some good characters, you had some bad characters, you had some even worse characters. But, what do you expect? It's a movie we're reviewing, so you kind of expect that. That's built in. And that's kind of why we do this, because we enjoy tearing up apart. I mean, why would we put up with this if we didn't enjoy it? So, I'm good with it. I think my favorite character was when you had the two men in the truck slam on the brakes to not hit the man, the 50-foot man, 80-foot man, whatever he was at that point. And, you had the one, look at the other, say, I'm never going to drink again, never, and throw his bottle out. So that, I thought, was the best character of the entire movie. It was funny, it was real, and everything like that. So, that was good. I think most of the other characters, they kind of, fit what they were supposed to do. The doctors, they played doctors. I've seen better, I've seen worse, but they played doctors. They were in their lane. The police, they were in their lane. The military, they were in their lane. The only character whose character really grew was the 50-foot man, and that mostly was physical. He just became bigger as it came on. But then again, he also, developed, instead of just being the, military leader that, you will do this, and then he violated the rules by running out. I can, see him growing from that. But then he developed emotions, he developed spirit, and, basically did what probably many of us would do if we were in that same situation that seemed really hopeless and, something that we just could not fathom of, just repeatedly growing that quickly and stuff, It made sense. For a movie that doesn't make sense, it made sense. So, I agree with that. But I also agree that the ending was, almost like, all right, we're out of money. We only got, 2 hours to shoot this final scene. So what are we going to do? Well, we'll just kill him and throw him off into the into the river. It just kind of was a letdown. It almost would have been better had they given an extra 15 minutes to go in there and at least give the a chance for the cure to take effect. If it would have worked, and he shrunk and get in there, all right, you had a happy ending. If not, and his bodily functions could not keep up with a body of his size, and he died, okay, it was a sad ending, but at least it would have been an ending. This was, all right, let's just, let him jump off the dam and, go have drinks. That was the way the ending struck me. So I guess I'll, let it get back to the net. And that's probably about all I got for right now. It's N5 IMS. The dam and, go have drinks. That was the way the ending.
Alrighty then. I don't know that I agree with you that the giant man's character grew. To me, it was more like it spoiled. That's okay. Let's see. According to my list, Tom is next. Mr. Tom, I see you there. Of course, I see you on a delay, but I'm sure you're there. KT5 ICX, this is WT9Z. Enlighten us, please, sir. Tom is next. Mr. Tom.
Oh, doggone, what are we talking about? The script? Please enlighten me. KE5 ICX.
Enlighten us, please, sir. Characterization.
Oh, doggone, what are we talking about? The script? Oh, yeah, we were talking about that on the last round, not characterization, but the script. Characters. What do you do with the characters? Well, I mentioned this earlier on the storyline, which is what is the motivation? What do you do with these people, and how do you handle it? It was mentioned earlier about everybody's in their lane. Yes, they are, and that's exactly what happens through the film, and that's probably one of the reasons why it doesn't grow beyond a story that really makes sense, and that is that everybody just kind of goes, oh, well, we're here. We're coming to work. We're going to just deal with this, including the girlfriend who goes, well, all right, this was fine. My boyfriend is now 50 feet tall, and I don't know. What do we do now? If she had the internet, she'd go to the internet and ask everybody, what do I do with this 50-foot boyfriend? And they say, you decide. I don't know. There's a disconnect in that. There's no way to say that there isn't. There's a disconnect between all the characters in this film, and that's probably why it doesn't work in the sense that our main character is catapulted into his own world as he gets larger and larger. Everybody else is already characterized as isolationists anyhow, so his change really doesn't matter because the characters have no real depth. And that's probably what makes this movie really bad, or promising for a remake, but really doesn't work. And that's probably where everybody finds the disconnect. At least I do, in the end. Could the story have been a lot better? Yes, absolutely. Let me reset. It really doesn't work. And that's probably where everybody finds the disconnect. The script itself is not bad. It really is not. What happens is in this film is that there's no culmination of how the characters, how the individuals should react to what's going on, and they seem indifferent to the whole thing. And so it's isolated, and as such, you can't really take the story forward, nor do you feel bad about King Kong. I mean, the Amazing Colossal Man death, because nobody else cares about it. So I mean, in kind of a weird way, if you feel that nobody cares about you, if you feel that somehow or another nothing really matters, this movie really works for you. So you jump off Hoover Dam and die in a diaper. Does that make any sense? KE5ICX. Nothing really matters. This movie really works for you. So you jump off Hoover.
I thought they shot him with a bazooka, probably in the delicate bits, and that's when he fell off. But I could be wrong. Let's see. That brings us around to Tony, NT5TM. What do you have to say about characterization on the Amazing Colossal Man from WT9V? Let's see. That brings us around to Tony, NT5TM. What do you have?
Well, not a tremendous amount. I think this movie was made back in the days when if a woman could scream loudly, she was on her way to becoming a great actress, which is sad, but seems to have been true at the time. Not a tremendous amount. I think this movie was made back... I really, I guess so often in life you get in what you put out of it. I'm once again impressed that Tom put more effort into thinking about the characters. I found everyone to be simply a stock type, not terribly interesting. I don't really have too much more to say about the movie, so I'm going to sneak ahead and fill in my one comment about special effects, which is I think the reason that so many of these movies with these giant creatures were in black and white was because it was really, really easy to do these kinds of effects in black and white. You could almost have made this movie in your garage. That was because of something that actually Orson Welles made extensive use of in Citizen Kane, which is, of course, a rather more interesting movie with better characters, but it has something in common, and that is with black and white film stock, if something is brightly lit on the negative, it's black on the negative. Brightly lit in real life, it's black on the negative. But if something is black in real life, it's clear on the negative. So you can film a person on a black background, and what you get is a person moving around on a clear piece of film. And that makes it really easy to overlay one or more pieces of film together to get a giant man moving past tiny cars or whatnot. It's just physically not that hard to do. Clear piece of film. And that makes it really easy to overlay one or more pieces of film. Film screwed all of this up, and really blue screening generally didn't look very good. The first movie I can remember seeing where the blue screening looked neat was Superman. So yet all these big heyday monster movies were made because it was just so easy with cheap black and white film. And that's actually all I've got for tonight, but I'll be listening. Mike, thank you for being net control, and thank you everybody for your comments. And T5TM.
Thank you, Tony. For one thing, I didn't realize. I never knew that about the easy compositing with black and white film. It's a neat little technical tidbit, something like that. You know what I mean. Thank you very much, Tony. KG5P, Mike and Richardson. What do you have to say about characterization in The Amazing Colossal Man? WT9V. Something like that. You know what I mean. Thank you very much.
WT9V, KG5P. I have nothing to say about characterization. I don't know. This movie was schlock, but it's good schlock. I mean, I don't know. I like this kind of schlock. This is pretty typical of the movies made in the 50s. I think that's when it was made. I don't know. It couldn't have been made any later than that, much later. You know, it's not the best and it's not the worst. It's somewhere in the middle, but it's pretty much. I mean, that's the part of the genre of that time frame, and you know what we knew about science and what we didn't know about science. And this movie they didn't take any real liberties with known science or anything like that. It was just an extension of what we knew about science, and this movie had exposure could have done. I mean, out of those movies, we had Godzilla and and plenty of others. Along the giant cockroaches, and we had giant ants and giant spiders and giant men, and and they had giant women, and everything was giant after being exposed to radiation. That really doesn't have anything to do with characterization. I just don't have any. There's another movie that's very similar I think we should watch, and it should be part of the repertoire. I think this movie is part of the repertoire of what we ought to be doing on this particular net. Another movie I think I'd recommend in this case is Giant Eyeballs, called The Crawling Eye, also known as the Trollenberg Terror. It may not have the same effect on me that it did when I was about 10 years old, but it's pretty good schlock. And I think that we should do that. I see Tom yawning away here, and I'm starting to yawn myself, so I think, Tom, I got up real early this morning. I think it was about 10 minutes after 8. For me, that's like in the middle of the night. So I think I'm going to cash it in and let you guys continue. But, this movie was okay. Honestly, I think it was better than some of the stuff that we've done recently. I truly do. But this is my opinion. This is 1950s sci-fi, and to me, that's the golden age of TV and movie sci-fi. So with that, I will say 73s. Looking forward to the next movie. Tom, I'll try to get synced up with your watch party, and we'll see you then. KG5P.
Thank you, Mike, and 73 to you too. Have a good night, and see you tomorrow. Let's see, that brings us around to, I did want to mention that most things exposed to more than a little bit of radiation don't end up growing huge. They just end up dead. WB50ZL, Brenda, characterization, your turn. This is WT9B.
This is WB50ZL. For the most part, I found the characters forgettable and cardboard. Other than the Carol and Glenn, everybody else just kind of faded into the woodwork. Of course, Glenn was, big, a giant guy. It's hard to miss him. But the way he changed was not pleasant to me, and big. So he was basically a very sad case and a jerk. Carol was very typical of women in the 50s in movies. Of course, she was very loyal and steadfast, and she just wasn't going to give up on her man, and tenaciously hung on, which was kind of common back then in movies, I think. But that made her, she's just like his shadow, What did she do otherwise besides be his girlfriend? Interesting note about her, she was in another movie, fine film that we saw, Missile to the Moon. If you remember that, it had the giant spider on the moon, the one that we had been recycled from another movie, Catwoman on the moon. Anyway, she was the girl that was on board the spaceship, if you recognized her. Well, I don't have a whole lot to say because characters just weren't really very well developed. So there's not much to say about them. So I'll turn it back. This is WB5OZO.
So what you're telling me is that the girlfriend was loyal and steadfast, like a Labrador Retriever. Oh, KF5TSK. What you got about characterization? So what you're telling me is that the girlfriend...
That's KF5TSK. Well, one of the things that bothered me about the movie was, Carol talked about her engagement to the Colossal Man to everyone but him. And it was almost like, we're close friends. We're not going to talk about engagement or marriage or... they just didn't seem close. It's like everyone in the movie was like a stock character, and it's like, what was the deal with the woman in the bathtub? It's like, oh, that was the part of the movie that we put on the, display that, look at what happens. And, I mean, she sees him, and it's like, oh, is this real? He broke my window. Oh, I'm going to jump up and I'm going to yell for someone to come help me. I guess in every way that no one seemed to, be that concerned about their part. I also noticed the uniforms that the military didn't look military. And the medical people, it was like, I would look on their, white smocks, and it was like, I'm not going to put a little symbol of medical. I'm going to put a big symbol of medical so that, you'll know that I'm medical, because you won't know that I'm medical unless I, show you that. Like I said, as far as uniforms, none of them seem to be, authentic. Only the soldiers in the field seem to be authentic. KF5TSK back to net.
Thank you, bro. And Randy, K5GOD. Thoughts on characterization and stuff from your 8-year-old self. This is WT9V.
My 8-year-old self is saying, oh, you guys just need to quit looking at this like adults. This is not an adult movie. This is a kid movie. You need to look at it like a kid. Given that, I have nothing for characterization because I'm a kid. Can I suggest a future movie? You need to look at it like a kid. Given that,
Well, you can suggest. I don't know if Tom has one of his mini pens available and is ready to write down things, or you can send him an email. But yeah, go ahead, suggest away. Tom, get your pen. Well, you can suggest. I don't know if Tom has
do you have your pen?
pens available and is ready to write down things, or you can send him an email.
Affirmative.
Get your pen.
Is Colossus the Forbin Project. Oh, that blew my mind back when I was single digits. That's a really good movie. Have you heard of that one? Is Colossus the Forbin Project.
Permission to speak freely.
Back when I was single digits.
Oh, go ahead. This whole thing's gone way off the rails. Take it away. Just give it back to me at some point.
Permission to speak freely. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, D.F. Jones' story from 1969. We did review it, but we can re-review it. I love that movie. KE5ICX, back to that control. Story from 1969. We did review it, but we can
Say that like I have any control at this point. Was there anything else, Randy?
Glad to have found another Colossus Forum project aficionado. Good to know there's more than just me. K5GLD.
Oh, add me to the list too. So there's more than just you and Tom. So, I'm on there too. Let's see. KF5 PDS, Miss Billy. Thoughts on other things that you've heard so far? WT9B. More than just you and Tom. KF5 PDS, Miss Billy. Thoughts on other things that
Well,
you've heard
yeah,
so
you can
far?
add me as a lover of Colossus The Forbidden Project. I actually was the one who recommended that we watch it, and was greatly very happy when Tom said that it was one of his favorite films too. So, yeah, that's a major film that I absolutely love. So, and I second Mike's recommendation to do The Crawling Eye, especially if we do the MST3K version. That is hilarious. So, with that, the eyes have it. With regards to the amazing Colossal Man, I was thinking about, were there any animals in this film? Sounds like this man could greatly have benefited by a canine companion. Not only might it have provided some plucky canine comic relief, but also would have been helpful for the humanity aspect. It's always helpful, I think, to have a canine in a film, because not only are they man's best friend, but they do have a great way of gauging the barometer of human character. You can immediately, we have this instinct of judging character by the way that we see others treat animals, especially, or beings that cannot speak for themselves. And so I always think it's helpful, you want to see who the bad guy is, just look for the person who's mean to the dog. You want to see who the hero is, find the person who's nice to the dog. So it sounds like this man, it might have even have saved his life at the end. They might have found a more equitable solution rather than euthanizing this poor man. I was kind of bummed out hearing that. I'm like, oh man, really? That's just, man, that's bad. That just puts such a dark aspect on it. I was like, man, woof. That's heavy duty. And then maybe this man could have gone off into the sunset with his canine companion to live and find renewed life, and maybe salvage some of his humanity. It sounded like his character deteriorated as film went on, which, as, things might have, progressed the way that's, what would have happened, but given the situation. But maybe having a canine companion would have grounded him a little more and given him, helped him hang on to humanity and compassion. So I don't know. Plus, it's just always, nice to see animals in movies. Even This Island Earth had a cat, so even though little Neutron wasn't around for very long, very many scenes, he was very helpful in exposing some of the plots. So anyway, I just was wondering if there were any animals that made any appearances. Nobody's mentioned any, so I was going to say maybe this film probably would have benefited from that, from some animal companionship. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KFI-PDS, back to net. Animals that made any appearances, nobody's mentioned any, so I was going to say maybe this film probably would have benefited from that, from some animal companionship. So
I didn't notice any animals, but I might have slept through that part, although I don't remember falling asleep this particular movie. Last week, yes. This week, no. Unfortunately. KG5, BZW, Jane Air Weatherford. What you got for us about characterization? This particular movie. Last week, yes. This week, no. Unfortunately.
KG5, BZW. Not really much.
What you got for us about characterization?
I'm not sure. Thought there was an animal scene, but man, it was seven. I don't know if I'm just thinking of another film or what. I thought there was like a cow or something at some point, but anyway, I don't really have much to add besides what everybody else has added. The newscaster, I'm calling him a newscaster even though that's not really appropriate for the time. I thought that and the comic relief of some of the other bits, the man going crazy, well, it was almost over the top. I mean, yeah, it was such a weird circumstance to begin with, and I don't know, there's just better stories with regard to that, and other people have mentioned, you know, Apple's metamorphosis and all. So, okay, I give it to the next person. So, whatever else they want to say about this film, I don't have anything else. I'll say good night, y'all. I'll be listening and keep my Echo link thing connected, so I'll see what's in the chat. But say otherwise, 73. I'll be listening and keep my Echo link thing connected, so I'll see what's in the chat. But
73, Jake. Have a good night and a good weekend. All right. So, yeah, it's a little late, so I'm just going to throw it open. Anybody that has anything else to say and or wants to check in, now's your time.
WB50ZL.
I'm just going to throw it open. Anybody that has anything else to say,
India 5, go from your hotel.
check in, now's your time. There's a double on that last one.
So India 5, Gulf Romeo Hotel.
There's a double on that last one.
E5 Issac. Of IMS.
Gulf Romeo Hotel.
E5 Issac. Of IMS.
Since I'm net control, I get to do things in the order I want. And I'm going to ask KI5GRH to go first. Would you give us your name? You gave us our call sign, where you are, did you see the film, and what are you thinking about?
KI5GRH. This is Melissa in Dallas, and I didn't see it. I always enjoy listening to you guys talking about it. So, anyway, I just got in late, but I always like to hear you. So, KI5GRH. I'll just be listening in. And I didn't see it. I always enjoy listening to you guys talking about it. So, anyway, I just got in
Hey, Melissa, thank you for checking in. It's good to have you with us, and we're glad you enjoy it. Well, at least I'm glad you enjoy it. I guess the other people are glad you enjoy it, too. Anyway, Brenda, what you got for us? WT90.
This is WB50ZL. Actually, there were a couple of animals in this movie. There was a camel and an elephant. and that's who they experimented on. They reduced them in size, which I think is kind of cruel. I don't know what happened to them, or if that process could have been reversed and had them restored to their normal size. But it was kind of a callous movie in general. I was kind of disturbed by the fact that they shot Glenn and knocked him off the dam, and then he fell down into the water below, just to leave his body there to rot. And whose water supply did that spoil? And no thought for the dead there. It just, to me, seemed kind of, I was a little uncomfortable with that. Is how, he's just gone. And, oh well. Okay, back to that. WB pause. OZL. The dead there, it just, to me, seemed kind of, I was a little uncomfortable with that. Is how, just.
Brenda. You forgot the bunnies. There were bunnies. What about the bunnies? Somebody has to think about the bunnies. And the fact that they left him there at the end of the movie, that was so that they could have the sequel, The Dredging Up of the Amazing Colossal Man's Body, in 1958 or something. I don't know. Tom, save me from this, please. That was so that they could have the sequel, The Dredging Up of the Amazing Colossal Man's Body.
This is KE5ICX. Well, I was going to say about the special effects, they were somewhat flat, like our flat universe, but at the same time, I thought it was enough convincing that they were able to make it work. I already told you about the angst and everything that went with the characterization. I think in the end, they did a credible job for 1957, being able to bring the thing together. So I'm going to say I think the film still holds up for that time period. I think that the storyline was okay and could have worked out better with the fifth scene, how you end up, concluding the thing was bad. That was the terrible part. So I give it special effects 6, storyline 7, final conclusion 0, 1.5, something like that. Although I think if I think about it a little bit more, it wasn't all that bad. KE5ICX. Conclusion 0, 1.5, something like that. Although I think if I think about
given that I respect your opinion and hold you in high esteem, I won't argue with you, because it wouldn't do any good anyway, because you'd probably just, decide it was time to go to sleep. Anyway, JJ, you said you wanted to say something, or at least I wrote your call sign down. What you got, JJ? This is WT9V. Because it wouldn't do any good anyway.
Well, my biggest issue with this whole movie, I think, was what happened to whoever was in the plane. It crashed at the beginning, was exposed to the explosion, just like the Major was. So, to whoever was, he had been there at least as companion for the Major, maybe growing together so that they could, have similar issues, and maybe another person to take samples from to figure out a easier and better way to resolve things more quickly and things. I mean, they could have at least had some comment about the person in the airplane. Admittedly, they said, we don't see anybody, perhaps he's dead. But beyond that, what else happened to him? I mean, he could have lived, he could have grown up, to be 80 foot tall too, but who knows? All in all, it wasn't that bad of a movie, considering when I saw it, I was probably in single digits too, initially. So, thinking it through those eyes, it wasn't that bad. At this point in time, with a more mature mind and whatever, well, I wouldn't say more mature, considering some of our chat comments that we have, but regardless, having grown up a bit more, it. Perhaps now I demand more of a film than I would have when I was single digits watching it originally. This is N5 IMS. Good night. Regardless, having grown up a bit more,
DJ, you forget, back in the 50s, that kind of romance was not something that they put on screen. So, anybody else have anything else that they want to say? Please come now. You forget, back in the 50s, that kind of romance was not something that they put on screen. So, anybody else have anything else that they want to say? Please come now. Nothing? Well, since Tom hasn't told me what's up for next week, Tom, do we have something up for next week? This is WT9V.
W5FC.
Tom hasn't told me what's up for
Oh, yes, maybe I looked at the time on this thing. I pull these things out and just put them up, and I want to be as excited about whatever the hell they are as you are, or depressed. I pulled up a thing called Supernova, Hollywood action sci-fi film's best adventure story, and it looked good. I checked the video on it, thought, oh, okay, let's put this one up. Then I noticed the overall time is 2 hours, 46 minutes, and 23 seconds. I may pick something else because I have a feeling this is major soap opera. But Supernova from Hollywood action sci-fi is what's there. But if you sign up on, what the hell is it? No, I don't know. Whatever. You tell them I'll have something better next week for tomorrow for next week. KE5ICX. I'm going to bed now. Oh, wait, I'm outside on the front lawn. I'm already in bed. Bye-bye. Bye, Bonds. KE5ICX for next week. KE5ICX. I'm going to bed now.
This, folks, is what happens when Tom starts sleep talking. So, if you want to find out what, if anything, we're doing next week, go to Afterglow Movie on Facebook. Yes, that's Facebook. If you hate Facebook, that's okay. Send an email to Tom, KE5ICX@yahoo.com, because apparently Tom's never heard of Gmail, and he will put you on the list once again. So, yeah. I'm out of here. Y'all have a good week, or a good weekend, or whatever time it is. It's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. And I will look forward to seeing y'all, or hearing from y'all next week. This is Michael, Whiskey Tango, Niner Victor, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye.